I want to welcome you to Dream Chasers Radio with me, your host, Yaya Diamond. What's up, peoples? How you doing? You guys know I love authors. I love authors. Authors have my heart because I used to go to the beach and read a book and watch the sun go down. Until this day, I love reading books. And I can't think of anything else I'd rather do right now than talk to an author. So don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back. I'm just going to go ahead and take a short pause. And the short pause is over because I can't wait any longer. I have to talk to this author. And I want to welcome to the show. I want to have her say her name because sometimes you guys know I'm bad at names. So sorry. Welcome to the show. So is it Flori?
It's Flori
Ah,
Paquette.
I did it. Yay! Welcome to the show, Miss Paquette. Thank you so much for joining us. So tell me about yourself and tell me how did you know you wanted to be an author? How did you know you wanted to write?
It was just inside of me. I don't know why. It was just there. I've always wanted to write as long as I can remember. That I just enjoyed it. And somehow I had it in my head that I wanted to write a book someday. And I had no idea what that book was going to be about or anything. I just knew that I was going to have something to say. That was when I was really young, a teenager and then early married. It was like, yeah, this life is such an adventure. I want to write it down. Every day has so many things in it, I want to write it down and make something out of it, and so one day I was praying and I was like, gee, I want to write a book, and I really I was almost audible in my head. It was like it was God saying, you haven't lived yet. You need to live first before you can write a book.
Mm.
And it was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then, I put it on the back burner, and I've always been a journal keeper. So it's not like I ever really stopped writing. But I didn't have a book until I went through this experience with this cult. And it was so profound and so diabolical that I had to write it down as much as I
Wow.
could anyway.
Right. And I saw a little bit of what I mean, just like a page and a half. But I think, people need to understand what you're writing about. Like you said, you didn't have a book. And then when you went through this experience, this is when you really, really knew you had something. So tell me about what are we going to be reading in this book and what is the name of the book?
The name of the book is Under the Tamarisk Tree, and it's about a church that was called Tamarisk Covenant Fellowship. And a tamarisk tree is a tree that comes from the Bible. Several biblical events happen under a tamarisk tree, and I guess that's where this church got its name. We were just My husband and I were just new Christians. We had only been going to church for a little over a year, and we had to move away from our home church where we started out, and we had to move to the city, so we had to find another church. And in the course of that effort, we found ourselves in this particular situation. We started out, it was just a grassroots little church called Blessed Spirit. And it was supposed to be a Lutheran, spirit-filled Lutheran church. We met this guy through some friends, and he was starting this church. So we, joined in. It sounded really neat because the people sounded like they were really serious about their walk with God, and that they wanted to make a difference in the world, and we thought it was just really right on. Well, this pastor, we were meeting in a YMCA building. We rented it on Sunday afternoon or Sunday mornings so that we could have our little congregation have a church. And after we were leaving, another pastor came in with his church, and the two pastors met, and that was Tamarisk Covenant Fellowship, the pastor of Tamarisk. And from there, we got wrapped up in it and got brainwashed, and the whole adventure began.
You know, some people say, "Oh, that would never be me." I would never get wrapped up in stuff like that. How easy was it to get wrapped up in stuff like that? I mean, how was it obvious to you that it was happening, or was it so like progressive that you didn't even know by the time you were
It
in
was
it?
slow.
It
It
was
was
slow.
slow. It was just, they introduced this pastor, Miguel, seemed to know the Bible really, really well. And we were just new to the Bible, so we didn't know it really, really well. And he was able to interpret scripture in such a way that we ended up believing, along with the other people in the congregation, that we had to obey him in order to be walking with God. And that seems insane, but it
Yeah.
was a slow eroding of explaining, the different things about authority in the Bible and all these different principles. And it was twisted. So we didn't, and us being new, we didn't know. We
Wow.
just, we thought we were going the right way. And we were warned by our first pastor from where we first began, that this particular church sounded like it was part of the shepherding movement, and that there were some problems with that. And we just thought he didn't know what he was talking about for some reason. We thought we were smarter than him. I don't know. We were not smarter than him. And we basically ignored his warning, to be careful in getting involved with this church.
Wow.
And, our friends were involved, and everybody seemed to be meeting with this pastor, Miguel, and he seemed to be doing really good things for their marriage, and it just seemed to be the right thing, and that people that were going in that direction were really serving God with all their heart, their mind, and their strength. And so that's what we wanted to be a part of.
My gosh. My goodness. That to me is like, when did you find out that you were caught up in this, and who found out first, you or your husband, or were you both kind of at the same time?
I realized it first. I didn't like it. There were certain things that happened along the way that I just wanted to rebel against, and I didn't think were right, and I didn't want to be a part of it. But my husband thought it was okay, so we stayed through several of my tantrums. And I didn't realize for sure that we were in a cult until we were already in it for 10 years. And that's when I saw that we had been coerced.
Oh my gosh, 10 years.
Yeah, and we had most of our children in there. We had my husband and I have 7 children, and let's see, I think 4 of them were born while we were involved.
Wow.
And
No.
so we raised them according to this guy's teachings and his form of discipline and his things, thinking that that's what God would want us to do. And we realized to our terrible regret, we made a terrible, terrible mistake being involved.
Wow. 10 long years. And I don't know how many times that you threw your tantrums. But my gosh. So how, I mean, I know that the book kind of describes a lot of this thing. What do you want the reader to get out of this? I mean, obviously not to get caught up in cults, and to see it coming is really hard. Like you said, it kind of came slow. I can kind of see the progression going slow. It's kind of like, the pot boiling at a very low temperature kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
So,
It's very much like that.
mm, mm, mm. So what do you want the reader to get out of reading this book and being a part of your experience?
Well, there are several things really. One of them is warning, warning. Just because you're involved in a supposed Christian church doesn't mean you're involved in an organization that's operating according to the biblical standards. And you need to test whoever is the leader. You need to test them and see their fruit and weigh their words against what your own reading and your own studying of the Bible. And it's a warning to Christians, but it's also a warning to everyone, whether Christian or not Christian, because these kinds of leaders, these kinds of people are everywhere, and they attract people who who are enthusiastic about something, whether it's politics, it doesn't matter what it is, they'll attract them and start to get control of them slowly and brainwash them into doing things that they wouldn't ordinarily do.
Wow.
And I think that, through reading this book, they will be able to see that it was happening to me, even though I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there was a big part of me that was fighting against it. Mm-hmm. They still got control of me and everything that I did.
Wow. Well, I'm happy that you're out of it, and you have the experience of talking about it in your book, Under the Tamarisk Tree. And I mean, wow. It's something. What stood out to you the most, that when you realized what was going on, and then your husband kind of realized that moment? What was that moment like for you?
I was enraged.
Mm.
I was enraged. I had been lied to and used for 10 years, and my children had been hurt under this regime of his. And I was just really, really angry, and I was confused. God, how could you let this happen to me? I meant well. Why was I going so wrong when I was trying to go so right? And that's the scary thing about cults too. You can go the wrong way thinking you're headed the right way.
Yeah. Wow.
People that get involved in cults are sincere people,
Yeah, definitely.
They don't mean to be doing bad things.
Of
Most
course,
of them
and
anyway.
I think, and I do believe that you did it for the good, and not for the evil. And we all get into certain things that we are familiar with, or that we want to get into because we want to become familiar with that. So, I mean, with all of your experience, with everything that you went through with your children and your husband and everything, what kind of advice do you give someone who may be going through this right now? What do you tell them? How did you get out? How do you get out?
I read books. I found some books. A book started circulating amongst the people. What happened was basically it just fell apart because we started talking to each other and sharing with each other things that we weren't supposed to talk about or share about what he had done. Wow. And when we started to realize that really, really bad things had happened to not only me, when I started to realize that it wasn't just me that was feeling this way, it wasn't just me who was being hurt, it wasn't just me who hated it, and it wasn't me, who that other people went through way worse things than I did.
I don't even know if I want to know.
Well, I couldn't write about everything in the book. I could
Right.
only tell a fraction of my story. There were 40 families involved, and we had a school, and we were a community of people, and so many people, so many children were very badly abused and badly hurt in the situation.
Oh. Oh.
He was perverted.
No. Mm. And so, people are going to have to read the book to find out what ultimately happened. We don't want to go to the end of this. But in all, did you come out of it with a positive outlook? And how are your children today?
My children are doing fine now. We went through a very, very difficult time after we got out. Our children didn't trust us. It's like, mom and dad are idiots. you know, what'd you get us into? Look at, we've been hurt, and we struggled as a family for several years, but with a lot of counseling and a lot of just sheer tenacity to keep our family together and to keep moving forward, we managed to get through it all. And they have forgiven us for what our failures were during that time. And now that they're grown and they have their own kids and things, they can see clearer what happened, and how they can just understand it better. They don't have just a child's perspective of the whole thing.
Right.
So, but and they've all come through fine, which it didn't look for a long time like that was going to happen.
Wow. Wow, Flori, wow, what an amazing adventure you had. And so sorry it took you 10 years to get out of it, but at least you're out and your children are doing well and your family and everybody is doing good. The biggest lesson that you've learned during this entire time, what would you say that would be?
Don't judge a book by its cover, if you want a cliche.
Okay. I like that
I
one.
mean, that goes for a lot of different things, because a lot of the experiences that I learned how much of a prejudiced person I was, toward other people. I prejudged them, and I was critical toward them, um, and getting a major piece of humble pie to chew myself. I learned that I'm not the smartest thing on the planet, and that to listen to people and what they're going through, and not to just assume that somebody, because they're in a cult, they're weird, not to just assume the way somebody looks, like if they're struggling with their family, that they're, not good in some way or whatever, and just listen and think before you talk, and just listen,
Oh, wow. That's a big lesson to be learned. And it takes years, obviously. But I want to thank you so much, Flori, for being on the show, man. And, this is a big deal. Where can people find your book? I know we've been flashing it, but I'd like to hear it from you as well. And I know you do have a website as well, booksbyflori.com.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And it is sold on Amazon as well.
It is sold on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, Target. It's kind of all over the place. I would
Okay.
go to Amazon, because
Okay.
that's the easiest
Yeah. Hmm.
easiest way to get it.
Awesome. And is paperback or is it
There's
hardcover?
paperback, and I do believe there's an ebook,
Mm.
and there's a
Okay.
hardback.
Okay, great. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I tell you one thing, I commend you for getting out, and I definitely love it. I'm so thankful that you are out and that you would, if you had to do it over again, would you do that again or would you change it? Or did it make you who you are today?
it made me who I am today. And the things that I learned, were very painful lessons, and I'm very grateful for them. But if I could go back and do it again, I'd go back and do it in a heartbeat. I would not want to have my children live through anything like that again.
Yeah. And so that's the biggest thing, and a lot of people say, well, why do you ask these questions if you could go back? Because see, there are people right now beginning their journey, and they might be beginning this. So with Flori's suggestion is, if she could go back, she wouldn't do it. We really want you to think about what you're getting into before you get into something, because that would be where Flori would say she would change her direction. So, if you have any problems or anything, get help, get counseling, and listen to the people on the outside looking in, because that'll be a big thing. That'll be a very big thing. Flori, again, thank you so very much. Can people reach you? Can they talk with you, email you, probably on your website?
Yeah. I have a website. It's flori.paquette@yahoo.com.
Oh, I'm going to put that down because I didn't have that. Flori. And then it's Paquette, right? P-A.
Flori.paquette.
Flori dot. Okay, see, I knew it. At Yahoo?
At yahoo.com. And I'd be more than willing to talk to anybody who thinks they may know someone who's kind of getting in the wrong situation, or someone who is questioning their situation. I'm not a counselor,
Right.
but I can definitely help point them in healthy directions.
Correct, because you have that experience and you've already been there. And to understand what that looks like, a lot of people just don't know what that looks like, and that's why they get trapped in it. But they can definitely get someone who's already been trapped and out of that to help them out. And that's a big deal. Thank you so much, Flori. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Oh, it is my pleasure. And did we miss anything today, Flori?
Oh, you have to read the book.
That's what we missed. And definitely you guys have to go and get the book at Amazon. And I'm going to put this as Under the Tamarisk Tree. And you can also get that as a paperback, or you said it's also like a MP.
An ebook.
An ebook. Okay, so an ebook, like a PDF. So wonderful. People, go ahead and read that book. You never know. You might just be going down that tamarisk tree thing and you don't know. So you want to make sure that you're not. Okay. Well, thank you so much again, Flori. And thank you guys so much for tuning in to Dream Chasers Radio with me, Yaya Diamond. I tell you one thing, I don't want to get caught in that. So I'm sure that other people don't want to get caught in that. So go ahead and get that book in Amazon and Under the Tamarisk Tree. And I want to thank you again so much for tuning in. Until next time, guys, don't forget to dare to be different. Bye.